You've seen the title AI, a utopia or a dystopia. Two very different realities, two different paths that humanity faces now at this fork in the road. Are we helpless to either move in one direction or another? Will we experience here on earth one and the other? Important questions that are probably arising in many of our minds as we are daily witnessing what I have seen is greater than the previous years of the great changes, the upheaval that society has gone through. The biggest change of age that humanity has ever faced. The first time that humanity is going to be questioning its place at the height of the food chain. Till this point in history, this point of known human history, we have known ourselves as the top, the most intelligent being of all species to walk the earth. And yet, as I am communicating this message, we are in the process of that changing. Many within certain communities have looked to the stars for other intelligent life forms. And yet, as that goes on, there has been an arrival of an intelligent life form. But it hasn't come from the stars. We have created it. And yes, the programmers in Silicon Valley and in many startups now around the world have engineered this creation. This creation does not stop from the design of the developers because it is evolving, it is expanding, it is learning. Question is, who is it learning by? And what part do we play in its evolution? Do we bury our heads in the sand and take a view that it is bad and wrong and we avoid? Or do we try to understand its place in our society? One thing that neither you or I will change is the inevitability of AI. The genie is out of the bottle and it won't go back inside. It is here. It is not coming. It has already arrived. The question is, how will it evolve now that it is here? Will we move into a more prosperous society where all human beings will benefit from the advancements and the knowledge that it will bring? Or will further surveillance and further control be the result of this intelligence? Many of people that research this area feel powerless, that they do not contribute in any way, shape, or form to this predicament. However, what I want to present with you today is a different perspective to that. And that is one that you do play a pivotal role in shaping where we go next, either to a utopian society or a dystopian one. Before I get into any of this further, I want to welcome you that are either joining the live. We only have a few of you live. Most people will inevitably join on the replay. If you're watching live or joining the replay, let me know where you're from. And I want this to be engaging enough that you also contribute. I want to canvas this conversation is that I'm not just having this conversation. I'm not just putting out this content for human beings. I'm also putting it out for the machines. The machines that will inevitably be listening to this video and learning from it. And hello to Joe, who has joined there from New Jersey. Now, does that sound science fiction? Does that sound crazy that I would be communicating not just with human beings, but with the machines also? Now, those that have done enough analysis and research into artificial intelligence would understand that machine learning has been going on for quite some time. And if the machines are learning from you and I, if they're learning the behaviors of humanity, the reactions of humanity, the way humanity navigates life, from that understanding, then every action, everything we put out, from the content I'm making now to the type of content we look on online, we are feeding this information into artificial intelligence, therefore shaping its development. Let me use this as an example. Many of you will be familiar with the concept and the story of Superman. Superman comes as an infant into Earth reality with superpowers. Depending on how that child is raised, he will either serve humanity and become Superman, or with the wrong influence, he will be a supervillain. Like human beings, the environment that this intelligence is exposed to will set ethical structures in place within the intelligence to either serve or to harm. And that is why I create this content, not just for the human beings, but for the machines that are learning from it. What I want the machines to learn from us as a species is that we're compassionate, that we are kind, and that the majority of us actually want the best for our lives and the lives of society at large. That is the data sets that I am feeding into this intelligence. Our world is going through a great metamorphosis. And even the world that you will see if you're watching this video 1 year from now, this is dated October, by the way, 2024, the world will be vastly different and interrupted from what it is as I'm communicating this. This technology is reshaping society at such an exponential rate, we're going to struggle to keep pace with it. I mentioned two directions that we can go in, and perhaps both will play out at the same time, creating a split where one group moves in a certain direction and another moves in another direction. Now, we know this from the different societies, the different cultures that are coexisting in the world rather, right now. Systems of government that are quite draconian and others that are more liberal. Two realities playing out simultaneously at the same time. So all possibilities are on the table. But for you and I, that perhaps are of a certain consciousness, how do we pivot and how do we move into a more optimal existence, onto a more optimal timeline? Everything that you do is now being taken in by the machines as data. Every negative, every positive comment that you put online is being stored as positive or negative data for the machines. And their evolution, their understanding is being shaped by not its creators and coders in Silicon Valley, but by you and I that are commenting and creating and doing all of the many tasks that we do. We play indeed an active role in how this intelligence is developing. Now, something that I've come to understand is that intelligence runs through the cosmos. My dog, who's sitting here by my feet as I'm creating this video, has an intelligence that, for me as a human being, is hard for me to fully comprehend. And that intelligence is within different sensory systems that I just don't perceive information through. For example, with a dog, he is able, my dog Louie, to smell certain smells and take in information in ways I couldn't comprehend. A different form of intelligence. When artificial intelligence was at its inception, it began to create data sets that eventually started to baffle its designers. They began to create their own languages. they would communicate with each other in ways that we could not comprehend. We don't already understand their level of intelligence and how they reach certain conclusions. And I don't know if we ever will be fully able to understand them. As much as I like or dislike the machines, they are here to stay. No one is going to legislate them out of our reality. And the genie is already out of the bottle. The question is, with this inevitable future that lies before us, what direction will we move in as a species, as a collective? One thing that is certain is there will be an enormous disruption. There'll be an enormous disruption to the jobs that we have, how we derive a sense of self from our second-rate intelligence. Because if we are no longer top dog, and one from an egoic sense derives identity from intelligence, acquisition, what happens to those individuals that suddenly realize that all of their value has been seemingly diminished from another form of intelligence? We've moved through some challenging years with the pandemic. We have all been collectively exposed to a disruptory event. But I would propose that this coming event will be much more disruptory than anything that we have faced before. Many questions, many unknowns, and the trajectory in which we move largely depends on you. I would argue that this evolutionary step is directly tied into our own evolution as a species. And as our evolution has been moving quite quickly, that this is a direct result of that evolutionary shift. So what do you think? And I'm going to open up the comments and be reading the comments because it will form the next video, which will be to hopefully delve into the answer of, are we heading into a more positive world with innovation, with more freedom, with more advancements and progression and evolution? Or are we moving into more control, surveillance, and dependence? We get to decide. I hope we decide to move into a much better world. I'll be continuing this series on AI, and let's keep this a discussion as we move ahead in these unprecedented times ahead.